it's Yesenia. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be an April TBR wrap up, and I'm very proud of myself. So my original TBR list consisted of 10 books, and I was able to read 11. So I added an extra audiobook, and I'm gonna describe that, the audiobook more in my May TBR and some reading vlogs that are going to be coming up soon. So like I said, I'm very proud of myself. I read a total of 11 books. So here are some statistics for the month of April. I read one-star book, 0 two-star books, 3 three-star books, 3 four-star books, and 4 5-star books. Okay, that was a little confusing. So I'm trying something different because I do notice a lot of other booktubers format their TBR wrap-ups this way, is that they go in descending order of the book that they ranked the least to the book that they ranked the highest. And I'm gonna give it a try and see if it works. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So the first book that I'm gonna be talking about is my only one-star book this month, and that is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I don't know what exactly the purpose of this book was. It was a very short read. It wasn't even barely 230 pages or something like that. The one big turnoff for me about this book was that the very first 30 something pages or so, I think, was just all background story. I read the first 10 pages thinking that I had started reading the actual book, but I didn't. And then I was flipping through it, and then I saw something that said chapter 1. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So I didn't even start reading this book. And then this book was just structured so weirdly. Yeah, so this is the front, the first 30 pages or so, and then it starts here. So I didn't quite understand that. This was so confusing. I mean, it followed a main character who went to the Haunting of Hill House because she got invited to it, and then they were supposed to stay there for a while, and then she was asked to leave because I forgot the reason that she was asked to leave, but I was just completely not interested in the story, and I was on the verge of DNFing it, but I figured since it was such a short book, why not just crank it out? And now I have added this book to the list of my list of read books for this year. So this was my one-star read. The next book on my list, and this is a 3-star read. Like I said, I had no 2-star reads, and that is The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. So I enjoyed this book. Okay, this was another short read. It was about 300-ish pages or so, and this is the beautiful Procreate cover. I think my copy got dirty though. I don't know. It looks really dirty, so I don't know what happened. But essentially, this book follows 2 main characters. What were the 2 main characters' names? Rin and this guy, Ellis. Rin and Ellis. So Rin is essentially gravekeeper, and her main purpose is to keep the bone houses, which essentially are just zombies. It's Walking Dead, coming to prevent them from coming into the city and keeping them in the forest. And throughout the story, her brother and her sister, their parents died, so they're on their own, and she's kind of the sole provider. And during the time in this book, the storyline, she is trying her best to make sure that her and her siblings can keep the house that they live in. And then along the way, she meets this character named Ellis, who is a map maker, and he pays her to take him around the mountains so he can map the mountains and things like that. And then of course, because it was following 2 main characters, Ren and Ellis, there was a romance. This is just not my cup of tea. I'm not a really big fan of zombie books. I'm not a big fan of Walking Dead or anything like that. I'm just personally not a big fan of zombies in general, and that's essentially what the Bone Houses were. She just called them the Bone Houses. It was Walking Dead people, and yeah, it wasn't exactly my cup of tea. It wasn't a bad book, but I didn't really enjoy it. And I have decided that I don't think like Emily Lloyd Jones books are for me. I read The Hearts We Sold from her a few years ago. I did enjoy that one a lot more than this one. That plot line was definitely way more interesting. However, I have no desire to reread it ever again. The next book on this list, and I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars, was Criers War by Nina Varela. So this book, I think this is a debut novel for her, and it definitely shows in the writings. I'm not saying there was anything bad about it, but I'm just like, okay, now I see why it was a debut novel. It wasn't a bad one. I did enjoy reading it. One thing I do want to say, and I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, I'll just put possible spoiler right here in case you guys want to like mute me or click back. But so there is a female romance. That is not a spoiler in here. There is a female romance in here, and I personally felt like it was a little out of place. So the storyline, there is this princess named Crier, and then there are essentially two races. I think it's pronounced Autome. So there's the Autome, and then there's the humans. The Autome are made, they're created, you know, and then humans are like, they're born. And Autome are made for a specific purpose. Like all Autome are made with 4 pillars, and it could be a combination of any of, you know, of characteristics. So Crier is an Autome. She's a princess. Her dad is a king, or I think he's a king. Her dad is essentially in charge of the land, and they're trying to keep the peace with the humans, so to say. But Crier, you know, this is kind of like a time where I think this is like kind of a common theme, like where Crier has ideas and she's trying to prepare herself to take over for her dad, but her dad is blocking her. He is not allowing her to make any of the decisions, and he's essentially like, he just wants somebody who just follows commands. That's the only reason why he would want a child. And he repeatedly said that in here, like, oh, you're so good at being obedient, or something like that. And this, like, what causes Crier to be, you know, she wants to venture out and break some of the rules a little bit. So, and then relationships between Autome and humans, like, they just don't exist, because Autome, I think, are made to not feel passion, and humans are, of course, so no passion, therefore no love. So when I got to the end of the book, I realized this story is not done. And the story isn't done. There is a second book. The second book is called Ironheart, and I think it comes out this September. I think I am gonna get it. I'm really curious to see, because this is her debut novel. I'm really curious to see if, you know, her writing style, I don't want to say improved. Well, yes, I want to see if her writing style improved and changed, and, you know, world building, character building. I just want to see, like, how this author progresses. That's a much better way of saying it. So yes, I will probably be getting Ironheart in September. I think it's in September when it comes out. The next book on my list, which should have gone before Criers War, but that's okay, is a book that I gave 3 out of 5 stars, and that is I Hope You Get This Message. So I did kind of annotated this book, because people who are anxious or who are not liking the current situation that we are in right now, I definitely don't recommend that you read this book. So this book is about some kind of alien race, and they're trying to communicate on whether or not they want to destroy the human race. So essentially they're deciding in 7 days if they want to destroy the Earth. So essentially the world ends in 7 days, and I tagged these parts. Well, some of them were foreshadowing, and then one of them was the start of it. Here, let me see if I can go in here and tell you guys. So I'm just gonna read this quote. Hopefully, I don't think it'll spoil anything. "See," he began finally, "this is what happens when you disrupt humanity's status quo. We crack. We're egotistical little ants." Sound familiar? There's just, since the world is ending, it's mass chaos throughout the whole United States. People are looting. People are, looting and stealing are the same thing. People are going crazy. They're taking everything. They're breaking the law. They really don't have you know, compassion for other people. And essentially, the title of the book is I Hope You Get This Message. Since the world is ending in 7 days, people are trying to find their hardest to get messages sent out to loved ones. Or, hold on, let me read one of the letters at the beginning of the book, because this was just hilarious. Khalil, I faked it the whole time. Peace out, a-hole. I hope the aliens probe you first. That's just hilarious. So people were trying to find ways to send messages while 7 days before the world was ending. And, cell phone towers go down and people, oh my gosh. It just kind of reminded me of what we were going through now. It's not as extreme. People obviously are not looting because the cops would be called immediately, and they're not going stir crazy, but like it reminded me, especially in March when this whole thing first started, of people like going to the stores and they were hoard buying, like they were hoarding everything. They were being selfish, not thinking other people could possibly need toilet paper and other supplies and other food, and the only people that they were thinking about were themselves, because guess what happened? This whole virus disrupted our daily routine. So everyone freaked. And so let me talk a little bit more about the plot in the story. So the plot in the story, I hope you get this message. It follows 3 teenagers, Kate, Adim, and Jesse. They are all connected now. They are connected somehow. And Kate is on a journey to find her dad. Adim is on a journey to find his sister, and Jesse, I kind of thought Jesse was an extra character, or a character that we didn't need to follow, but the connection came at the end, so Jesse does serve a purpose. Jesse is like the bad kid, the one who gets in trouble, has anger issues, so he's seeing a counselor, and then him and his mom are extremely poor, so he's trying to find a way to make money so that way, him and his mom can have the basic necessities, because they don't even have they don't make enough food. They don't even make enough money to eat every night. Like, Jesse goes to bed hungry several times. So we also follow him. And yeah, so it's following these 3 teenagers on their journeys to complete their missions, because the world is going to end in 7 days. Yeah, so I just gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I think I read this at the wrong time. I think I would have enjoyed it more if we weren't in our current situation. But, I mean, things happen. I wanted to read the book. I mean, if I had read it, it came with Criers War, I want to say in the November Crate box last year. So if I had read it in November, I think I would have liked it better. But yeah, if you are not a big fan of our current situation, you might want to hold off on reading this book. The next book on this list, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and that book is A House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. So this was a very interesting concept for a book. This book follows, oh my god, I forgot her name. How did I forget her name already? Annalee. I'll just say Annalee. So Annalee is the main character of this book, and Annalee initially has, I think, like 12 or 13 sisters. However, over the last few years, her sisters kept mysteriously dying, and it just seems like terrible accidents and horrible coincidences. But like her eldest 6 sisters, they're all dead, and now only remains the like 6 or 7 younger sisters. So throughout this book, one of her younger sisters, she likes to draw, and she always carries like a sketchbook or something. And the youngest sister, who is too young to remember the 6 older sisters because most of them died before she was even born, was drawing these awful images of the older sisters. And Annalee kept asking her how she was able to draw these pictures. And I think, what's her name? Verity? I think the little sister's name is Verity. Verity kept saying, well, I see them everywhere. I mean, yeah, so essentially she was saying that she was seeing ghosts, and Annalee was going crazy because her and Verity were the only ones who were able to see these ghosts. And then other terrible things kept happening, and Annalee was trying to convince other people that, you know, she kept seeing her sisters and somebody was doing this, and then she at some point was just starting to see things. So it was a very interesting concept. It did end up having a happy ending. I think this is a standalone. It kind of, like, the ending kind of wrapped up, and it felt like it didn't need any more explanation. So I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. I was just a little confused. I'm like, so wait, what was real and what wasn't? There are some huge plot twists in here, though, so I did enjoy that. I'm a plot-driven person. The next book on my list, which was my biggest book on my April TBR, was definitely, like, it was my monster book, is I almost hit myself in the head with this book. Heart of Flames by Nikki Palpretto. So this book is giant and it's beautiful, and it's the beautiful Alcrate edition to match my first book. So if you don't know, this is the second book in the Crown of Feathers series. So I won't talk about this book, but I'll talk about Crown of Feathers. Crown of Feathers is a book about 2 sisters who live in this world where Phoenix riders are no longer allowed, and they think, and that society thinks that the Phoenixes are dangerous creatures and they don't like Phoenix riders. So a lot of Phoenix riders had gone into hiding, and Veronica and Alvakyra, I hope that's how you pronounce her name. So those are the 2 sisters. They are trying to find Phoenix eggs so that way they can hatch them, and then they can train their own Phoenix and become Phoenix riders again. Here's the thing, though. Alvakyra is a very controlling and a very abusive older sister. And Veronica is the younger sister, and at some point, like, their relationship is very strained. And Veronica at one point just gets completely tired of it and decides that she wants to become a Phoenix rider on her own. So that is her journey. And this is just the second book in the series. I don't want to talk too much about this. One thing that I do want to say. So the first book followed 3 characters. It followed Sev, Tristan, and Veronica. This book followed 5. It followed those 3, and then Elliot's and Alvakyra. So if you guys don't know, I'm not a big fan of that many points of views. I can handle 3. 5 is a lot. Good thing about Nikki Palpretto is that she does a really good job of picking up the story from the next perspective, and then it flows really smoothly. But I think we could have, this is just my personal opinion, I think we could have done without Elliot's perspective. If it had just been Tristan, Sev, Alvakyra, and then Veronica, I think it would have been a lot better. But that's just my opinion. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I actually read the whole second half of this book in 2 days. I read 319 pages in 2 days. Just because spring break was almost over and I just didn't want this looming over my head. So I honestly thought that this book was, like, I thought Crown of Feathers was a duology. It's not. It's definitely not. The story has, like, this book has an unfinished ending. Like, there's a 3rd book. And then on my Instagram, I did, like, post a pretty picture, and I asked Alcrate, like, because I tagged him in the post, are we going to get an Alcrate edition of the 3rd book so us OCD book lovers can have a matching set? Because I would totally buy it. I'm just saying. Okay, so now we are getting into the 5-star reads, and I have 4 of them to talk about, and this video is already long, so I'm just gonna try my best to, let's get through this. So my very first 5-star read for the month of April is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. I absolutely love this book. So for those of you who don't know, A Curse So Dark and Lonely is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and the main one of the main characters, Harper, is essentially Belle, and she has cerebral palsy. And then we have a prince who lives in another world. His name is Ren, and every season he turns into a beast. So when a new season starts, he becomes human again, and then he has to try to fall in love before the season ends, before he turns into a horrible beast who kills everyone. So Harper essentially gets kidnapped, and then she gets taken to this world, and then of course it's just Beauty and the Beast. Ren is trying to get Harper to fall in love with him, and yes. I absolutely love this book. I couldn't put it down. It is kind of a heavy. I did end up getting A Heart So Fierce and Broken, which is the second book. I think this is called the Curse Breakers series. And then there is a third book, which I think is called A Vow So Bold and Deadly. So I can't wait to continue the series. I heard the second book follows somebody else besides the main characters in this one. I'm a little weary of that. So we shall see what I think of the second book. The next 3 books that I'm going to be talking about are all 5-star reads. However, they were all audiobooks, so I'll just make sure to put pictures right here when I start talking about them. The first audiobook that I listened to during the month of April was Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa. I almost started to say Shadow of the Fox. I don't know why. But Night of the Dragon is the 3rd book in the Shadow of the Fox series. What is wrong with me? I can't think. So I'm not really going to be talking about Night of the Dragon because it is the 3rd book in a series and I don't want to give away too many spoilers. So Shadow of the Fox. Shadow of the Fox follows 2 main characters, Yumeko and Tatsumi, and they both essentially have the same goal. Every 1,000 years, this dragon scroll appears, and then once you get all the dragon scroll pieces together, the person who puts them together can summon the dragon and then make a wish. In the years past, the wish has been used, for terrible and evil things. So Yumeko is on a journey to try to prevent that from happening. So I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. If you didn't watch my work week reading vlog, I was on the verge of giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars just because I was not happy with the direction the plot was going in. I was pissed. However, I'm like, you know what, let me finish. I had like an hour left in the book when I made that decision. I'm like, you know what, let me finish listening. And the author redeemed herself with the epilogue. So I'm like, okay, you know what, I'll give it to her. This book was so emotional for me. Like, I was an emotional wreck when I was listening to the last hour of this book. I actually remember I was taking a bath and I was legit crying in my bathtub for like 30 minutes because it was such an emotional roller coaster ride. So yeah, I gave that book 5 out of 5 stars, and I would highly recommend the Shadow of the Fox trilogy. Such a fantastic book series. I have no other words for it. Okay, the next audiobook that I listened to during the month of April was The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. Trisha Levenseller is the author of the Daughter of the Pirate King duology, and this is, I think, her first standalone. This book is described as a Slytherin romance. At first, when I heard that concept, I'm like, what? What? And then I heard other people talk about it, and then I started listening to it, and then I understood the reference. So the main character, Alessandra, is in this kingdom, and she is a very, I don't know the words to describe her. Essentially, let me just put it this way. Alessandra gets bored with her life, and she wants to have all this money and all this power to herself. It's mainly the power. So she devises a plan to seduce the king, try to marry the king, consummate the marriage, and then kill him because she wants all the power for herself. Sound familiar? Once I started listening to this book, the Slytherin romance reference, it started to make sense. The thing about Alessandra, at first, so people were talking about how they really did not like her attitude, and I kind of agreed. Like, after a while, the attitude, I'm like, okay, is there going to be any kind of character development? I will say this, there is a lot of character development. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars because I thought it was absolutely hilarious. It was such a fun standalone, and because it was a standalone, there was an ending, and I really did enjoy the ending. Like, that was a perfect ending and a perfect wrap up for this book. I'm not going to say any more about it. The last book that I listened to this month, which I also gave 5 out of 5 stars, was The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So if you have not watched my May TBR, I'm going to link that down below. Please go watch my May 2020 TBR so you can get some more info on this. But I am rereading the Hunger Games trilogy to prepare for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes book that is coming out on May 19th. So I'm not going to dive too much into what the Hunger Games is about because I'm assuming most of us know what the Hunger Games is about. And also I am filming separate reading vlogs for the Hunger Games, for Catching Fire and Mockingjay. So be on the lookout for those reading vlogs that are coming up. And I really hope you guys do watch them. And I'm wondering, are you guys preparing for the new Hunger Games book? Are you excited for the new Hunger Games book? Because there's a lot of controversy around it. I know a lot of people are not happy about the fact that it's from President Snow point of view. So I will give more details in those reading vlogs. But that was another book, and because it was the Hunger Games, and I really did enjoy reading it, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Alright, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching my April TBR wrap up. I really hope you enjoyed it. I am so proud of myself for reading 11 books this month. And if you want to see how many books I'm going to try to read during the month of May, go check out my May TBR down below. Alright, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye!